Nu metal, a genre that emerged in the late 1990s and early 2000s, stands as one of the most distinctive movements in modern rock and metal music. Fusing elements of heavy metal, hip-hop, industrial, grunge, and alternative rock, nu metal broke down musical boundaries and ushered in a new era of genre blending that would define the sound of a generation. With its raw energy, aggressive tone, and diverse sonic palette, nu metal appealed to a wide range of listeners, from metalheads to fans of mainstream alternative rock. Here, we trace the origins, key characteristics, and evolution of nu metal, highlighting its rise to commercial dominance, its cultural impact, and its eventual decline as the music scene shifted. The roots of nu metal can be traced back to the late 1980s and early 1990s, when alternative rock, industrial, and hip-hop began to influence the heavier genres of rock and metal. Several key musical movements during this time laid the foundation for the genre's development. Industrial metal, pioneered by bands like Ministry, 9 Inch Nails, and Skinny Puppy, was one of the primary precursors to nu metal. Combining metal's heaviness with electronic music, synthesizers, and industrial sounds, industrial metal embraced abrasive, mechanized rhythms and dark, nihilistic lyrics. Albums like Ministry's The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste from 1989 and 9 Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral from 1994 highlighted the potential for metal to incorporate electronic textures, sampling, and aggressive vocal delivery. These industrial influences were crucial in shaping the distorted, electronic heavy aesthetic of nu metal. At the same time, grunge music was dominating the airways and changing the landscape of alternative rock. Bands like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains combined elements of heavy metal with a raw, emotionally intense sound that resonated deeply within Generation X. Grunge's influence on nu metal is subtle but significant. Both genres share an emphasis on angst, disillusionment, and social alienation. However, while grunge was often brooding and introspective, nu metal would emerge as a more energetic, aggressive, and multi-genre fusion. Another key influence on the development of nu metal was hip-hop, particularly the rap-rock fusion pioneered by bands like Run DMC and Public Enemy in the late 1980s and early 1990s. These early collaborations between rock and rap established the idea of blending heavy guitars with rap vocals and politically charged lyrics. Anthrax's collaboration with Public Enemy on the 1991 single Bring the Noise is often cited as one of the first notable examples of rap metal, a genre that would evolve into a key feature of nu metal. Nu metal, as a distinct genre, began to take shape in the mid-1990s. Bands from different musical backgrounds, many of which had been influenced by the aforementioned genres, began experimenting with the fusion of metal, hip-hop, alternative rock, and industrial sounds. The genre's defining characteristics, heavy, down-tuned guitars, aggressive drumming, rapped or shouted vocals, and electronic or industrial elements, emerged as a part of a broader shift in the metal landscape. The year 1994 saw the formation of Korn, the band often credited with pioneering the nu metal sound. Korn's self-titled debut album in 1994 showcased an aggressive mix of dissonant guitar riffs, syncopated rhythms, and frontman Jonathan Davis's emotionally charged vocals, which ranged from growls to anguished screams. The album was a commercial and critical success, setting the stage for the genre's rise. Korn's music blended the raw, abrasive elements of metal with the rhythmic sensibilities of hip-hop, particularly in the use of rapid percussive drumming and groove-based riffs. Korn's follow-up album, Life is Peachy, in 1996, cemented their place in the emerging nu metal scene, featuring darker, more experimental elements while expanding on their distinctive sound. Around the same time, other bands, such as the Deftones and Limp Bizkit, began to explore similar territory. Limp Bizkit formed in 1994 and gained widespread recognition with their 1997 album $3 Bill Y'all, The album showcased Fred Durst's rap vocals paired with heavy, groove-laden guitar riffs, while the band's use of electronic elements, samples, and turntables furthered the genre's crossover appeal. Limp Bizkit's 1999 album Significant Other would become one of the most commercially successful nu metal albums, fueled by hits like Nookie and Break Stuff. The band's blend of catchy hooks, rapped vocals, and aggressive guitar riffs helped make nu metal a mainstream phenomenon by the end of the decade. Deftones, often considered one of the more experimental and atmospheric bands within nu metal, also emerged during this time. Their debut album, Adrenaline, in 1995, incorporated elements of alternative rock and post-hardcore into the nu metal framework. Over time, Deftones would expand their sound further, exploring atmospheric and shoegaze influences, but their early work was instrumental in shaping the genre. The late 1990s saw the explosive rise of nu metal, both commercially and culturally. With the release of Korn's Follow the Leader in 1998, nu metal reached new heights of popularity. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and featured some of the genre's most iconic tracks, including Freak on a Leash and Got the Light. Korn's success proved that nu metal had a broad commercial appeal, combining the aggression of metal with the rhythm and swagger of hip-hop. The band's ability to blend emotional vulnerability with rage-filled aggression resonated deeply with the young, disillusioned audience. Similarly, Limp Bizkit's Significant Other in 1999 was a major commercial success, and its success was aided by the rising popularity of music television channels like MTV. The album's combination of catchy hooks, rap verses, and anthemic choruses made it a staple of late 90s rock radio, and Limp Bizkit's charismatic frontman Fred Durst became a poster child of the nu metal movement. Linkin Park, who formed in 1996, became one of the most commercially successful nu metal bands with their 2000 album Hybrid Theory. The album was a massive commercial success, selling over 10 million copies in the United States alone, thanks to its infectious blend of melodic hooks, rap verses, and heavy guitar riffs. Tracks like In the End and Crawling were instant radio hits, and Linkin Park's ability to seamlessly blend electronic elements with rock gave them mainstream appeal. Hybrid Theory is often considered one of the defining albums of nu metal, capturing the genre's core elements while broadening its appeal to a wider audience. Papa Roach and Mudvayne, along with other bands like Stained and Slipknot, continued to push nu metal into the mainstream with their aggressive sounds and raw, emotional lyrics. Slipknot, in particular, added an element of extreme metal to the nu metal formula, introducing a heavier, darker sound with chaotic drumming, intricate guitar work, and the signature imagery of masks and jumpsuits. By the mid-2000s, nu metal began to lose momentum. Several factors contributed to this decline, including oversaturation in the market, the changing tastes of music listeners, and the genre's occasional lack of musical depth or innovation. The mid-2000s saw a rise in other rock subgenres, such as post-punk revival, garage rock, and the burgeoning indie rock scene, which shifted the focus away from nu metal. Moreover, criticisms of nu metal's reliance on formulaic songwriting and its blending of hip-hop with heavy rock started to alienate some listeners. Bands like Linkin Park, who had achieved mainstream success, began to experiment with their sound, incorporating more electronic, pop, and alternative rock elements into their later albums. By the 2010s, nu metal had largely fallen out of the mainstream spotlight, though many of the bands associated with the genre continued to release albums and tour. While nu metal's commercial dominance may have waned, its influence can still be felt in various subgenres, particularly in metalcore and post-hardcore, where the fusion of heavy riffs, electronic elements, and aggressive vocals remains prevalent. Bands like Bring Me the Horizon and Motionless in White have drawn on the sonic characteristics of nu metal, blending electronic effects, rapped vocals, and breakdowns on their heavier, more aggressive brand of metalcore.